Welcome back to Rolling Stories. This is the podcast where we roll up our sleeves and dig into the real stories behind HR leadership. I'm Adrian Tan.
And I'm Manu Khetan. Adrian, let me put you on the spot. If you had to choose, would you rather manage a team of passionate social workers or high flyer investment bankers?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think both would keep me on my toes, but at least with social workers, there'll be more meaningful potluck behind it. What about you, Manu?
No, honestly, after my last team building karaoke HR folks, actually, I feel that it'll be much nicer to be amongst the passionate social workers. Absolutely, yeah.
And of course, they have so many challenges within the sector, which is why today it is a very special episode because we're going to pull back the curtain on all things social sector. And with that, we have someone that is joining us to share more with us today, and that would be...
Joining us today is someone who knows these challenges inside out, Lee Jin-Hwui. I'm still learning to pronounce his name correctly, but I hope I did not disappoint you, Jin-Hwui. Jin-Hwui is the Chief People Officer of THKMC. Welcome, Jin-Hwui, to Rolling Stories podcast, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks very much, Manu and Adrian. It's really a pleasure to be with you guys today.
As I was coming in today, I went onto your LinkedIn because we actually know each other for some time. So I was trying to recall at which juncture of your career that I got to know you. And I was running through, I realized, actually Jin-Hwui has been in many different industries. From public sector, he was in bank before, he was in NTU and also in F&B sector, before currently in the social sector. So I'm personally very curious, what made you choose the path of joining the social sector, given your vast amount of different industry exposure?
Now, as what you've seen in my LinkedIn profile, I did not start my career in the social service. I was in both the public service as well as the private sector, various MNCs and all. While I was in these roles, I have been actively volunteering for different causes. And I've always been asking myself, what if there is a day whereby I can, at a snap of a finger, combine my volunteering passion with my professional work? And this is where THKMC is a very attractive platform for me because it is a multi-service agency that allows us, through one organization, to reach out to multiple segments of society. This includes people who are disabled, children with disabilities, senior citizens, families in crisis, as well as those who are in need of various types of therapy treatments. And I want to use this opportunity to be able to tell my children, my two daughters who are in 14 and 10, that it is possible to combine your passion with a great purpose and a great paycheck. You don't have to make it mutually exclusive. The options are there.
That's amazing, Jin, and that's a very nice way to put it actually, because only when we think like that, then we can actually tell everybody. And honestly, this is one sector which does a lot of work, and it is very tiring. And at the end of the day, the way corporate world works and the way the social sector works, the challenges are completely different. I was reading about it just to prepare a little bit to have a chat with you. But I feel, and of course, we will chat about that a little bit more. Speaking of social sector practices, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is that the Management Associate Program. I'm sure I've learned from you that you've led that at THKMC. What did you learn by leading that in terms of attracting young kids, actually? I mean, of course, you mentioned about your kids and how do you basically explain the purpose and paycheck to them. But what do you think about the challenges that you encountered, and how did you deal with them? Yeah.
Well, I would say that my team and I had a rather fortunate time because Thai Hoa Kwan Moral Charities, or THKMC, as is affectionately known, is a very strong brand. We have a great culture, and most of the young high potentials that we have hired have chosen to stay with us. But unfortunately, there are one or two who have chosen to leave. And when we do some introspection, we realize one hard truth. And the truth is that purpose alone is not sufficient to drive retention. It is really a combination of purpose, paycheck, as well as progression. And when I refer to progression, I'm referring to accelerated progression. So people who have left us, right, it's not because they are disengaged, but it's because they felt that they have outgrown the system in a faster pace than what the system can provide. And I'll be honest, there will be sectors out there that will have an abundance of resources that will dazzle them. But we are learning, which is why we are creating agile organizational structure that provides cross-functional project experiences, leadership experiences, so that we can deliver these opportunities to our young high potentials at the earlier stage of the career rather than the latter. At the end of the day, we want to ensure that our people can go as far as their abilities and ambition allows.
Oh, that's amazing. And if I could just ask a small follow-up question on that, Jin. When you go to the youngsters and attract them to your academic program, do you have those conversations where they are actually thinking about whether to join the corporate world or the social sector? Because the purpose is something that you have a strength to attract them. But of course, the passion and progression is another elements. But did you feel that it was difficult, or let's say, for example, when you're hiring in Singapore, or it was pretty easy? I'm asking this because I've run a HRTA program in rolling areas for the last 7-8 years, and one of the things that we have to convince them, the bright ones, especially basically from the unis, that how are we going to give them that paycheck and the progression? So what was your experience about balancing when you were attracting the talent between the purpose, which is of course your strength to easily attract them, but between the progression and paycheck? Did you find difficulties around that, or was it relatively easier as compared to hiring the fresh grads in your previous life?
Well, I guess I'm fortunate enough to be able to draw experiences from MNCs and public service, which I used to serve in the past. Now, if I were to reflect, I would say that there's a lot more similarities between the social service and other sectors than there are differences, I would say. Now, the first thing is that if I were to meet any young high potential, this is how I was pitched to them. Come and join us and be a part of the transformation. Now, here in the social service, you don't just run projects. You change lives, you shape systems, and you drive the national agenda. And of course, you will also be exposed to a whole series of developmental opportunities like crisis leadership, change management, digital transformation. These are skills that will be applicable and can stand shoulder to shoulder to similar jobs in any other sectors.
Wow, Jin.
And the real difference is that you are joining a sector that allows you to make real impact in real time.
Your passion speaks on your face, Jin. That's great, and great to know. In fact, basically, I thought this is a good pitch for anybody actually to get attracted to. But yes,
you actually answered my next question, because I wanted to put you on the spot and pretend that I'm a skeptical business grad, and for you to pitch a career in the social sector, and specifically in your case, THKMC. But I think you have already answered that very well by providing that very rounded picture on what a graduate or anyone who is new to social sector can actually identify. But maybe on the flip side, I'm also curious, are there also typical things that people may have a misconception about the social sector that you may want to dispel? Because I think traditionally for many people, the common sense or the common viewpoint for social sector is always, low pay, a lot of hard work, etc. No career growth. Of course, all those we have already addressed.
People think that. Actually,
yeah,
right,
people think that. I'm very certain things have evolved a fair bit, because you have never heard of a management associate program in the social sector right now.
Yeah.
So are there also anything that you would like to spend some time to dispel, to let your potential target audience who is listening to this podcast know what has changed, and to let them know what is the version of social sector in 2025?
If I can, at a snap of a finger, I would say that the decision to join the social service is a strategic career move, one that allows you to grow professionally, but yet at the same time create meaningful impact. Now, the social service demands strategies, leadership, innovation, and grit, just like any other sectors out there. I would say that social service careers demands strategy, leadership, innovation, and grit. These are the same skill sets that are required in any other sector. And on top of that, when you are in this service, you see meaningful impact in real time. And so I would say it's a really good strategic career move for any ambitious young talent out there. Now, if I can put it in a snapshot, I would say that joining the social service is a meaningful and strategic career move. Because in the social service, we develop leadership, innovation, grit, strategy. These are all skills that is in demand in any sector we go to. So we manage crisis, we influence systems, and we drive national agendas. So I would really advocate for the fact that social service professionals are nation builders, not merely good people coming together to do good.
Oh, that's amazing, Jin. That's very nicely put. That social service professionals are nation builders, not merely a
Nice
group of
people
good
coming
people coming together for do something good or attempting to do that. So you give the power to the social workers that we are professionals too, and at the end of the day, that's not the even right way to put it actually. Right? They are probably doing the good purpose, and of course, basically getting a good paycheck and getting good progression, right? Yeah. Jin, if I could ask you about succession planning in social sector, do you think it is just a tick in the box, or it is something very meaningful that you found in this sector?
Now, I would say that succession plan is not a tick in the box. It is really a survival plan. Now, what are the opportunity costs of not having a proper succession plan? Our initiatives and progressions are stopped, the team get demoralized, and it affects life in a very negative way. So that is not something we want. So in our organization, what we do is that we take a two-pronged approach. First one is to identify talents as early as possible, put them through the various development programs and experiences, and it's going to be mainly centered around doing and learning rather than just classroom-based activities. Right. So the experiential part of it is really important. The second part of it is to also work with the incumbents in key leadership positions to learn to mentor forward. Now, we are fortunate to have a group of very experienced senior leaders, and they're always very giving, being social service professionals.
Yeah.
And we are all aligned in ensuring that THKMC succeeds beyond the current generation because the mission continues even after we retire.
And I think succession planning is something that could only be possible if a good retention strategy is in place. So I'll be curious to also understand within your remit, what are some of the retention challenges that you're facing? And of course, what are some of the strategies specifically THKMC has deployed to maintain the group of talents that you already have in your organization so that you can continue to feed them through your succession planning pipeline?
Now, one of those key things we shared earlier is the 3 Ps. We make sure that there's a clear purpose so that they remain engaged at all times. We want to ensure that the pay is competitive, and then at the same time, there's also good progression for them. But on top of that, it is the human interaction that matters above all. And this is where we look at how we can deploy stay interviews. Now, apart from the 3 Ps we have mentioned earlier, purpose, paycheck, as well as progression, there's something else that we do quite extensively for our high potentials, and that is stay interview. Now, this is not labeled as stay interview as we engage them, but it is a set of regular engagement, one-to-one engagement sessions that we have between the mentors assigned as well as the high potentials, because we want to hear them out. And more importantly, we want them to feel that they belong. Because at the end of the day, these are key leaders who will lead THKMC's mission in the future and not just mere instruments in the entire mechanism.
Yeah.
Stay interview is really something that I find to be very powerful.
Yeah.
And it's quite mind-boggling why many companies are not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I was still running my recruitment business, we will also do that. And we will always often ask them, what would drive you away from this company? And you will begin to see patterns. 80% of the people say the same thing. And we just make sure we, like you always like to say, double down
Yes,
in that
absolutely.
particular area because it just makes sense. Data tell you so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's, sorry, then you were saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really important to ensure that there is sufficient psychological safety between the organization and the individual for us to have quality answers that we can act on.
Yeah, I know that's a perfect way to put it actually, that we talk about in silos, the psychological safety in the HR realms. We also talk about exit. Now, exit is the most common interview feedback pattern actually, right? Then we talk about the retention. But if we mix the retention and the psychological safety, and then you get the right feedback, and then you can probably act on it before it is too late, which actually will drive retention, right, Jin?
Absolutely.
No, perfect. Okay, Jin, now the next question actually I want to ask you is something that I do for a living, HR technology. So now you know that we are tired, happily tired, I would say, of hearing the word AI, artificial intelligence, and the social sector is, again, I would say, I don't want to brand it, but we are basically here to break the myth. But then it is assumed, and a lot of people think that social sector is very slow at tech adoption. And I think it'll be a very good point for you to basically give us view about that. That do you think so? And what have you seen actually in your experience at THKMC about that?
Oh, I'm really proud and happy to share that the social service is growing progressively. That includes the adoption of technology. But of course, we don't do technology for the sake of it. We do it because it makes business sense. And in THKMC, we use AI to do the heavy lifting. Automation of recruitment processes, automation of payroll, isolating variables that will predict attrition and also the success of an identified talent. All these things we can use AI to do. But what we cannot, in my opinion, use AI for is to replace the human touch. For example, if we are having a performance conversation, we are doing counseling, if you're going to check out the well-being of an individual, or we want to give recognition. Now, these are things that would be best done by another person and not by a program, because the authenticity factor may have been lost. So if we were to use AI, we want to use AI to make HR more effective, to allow HR to be more human. And if AI replaces the human part of HR, then I would say would have failed.
Okay, so Jin, I want to use a little bit from your 3 Ps about the next question, about employer branding. I was thinking to ask you something else, but then let me try to rephrase my question about employer branding.
Sure.
So when you think about employer branding for social sector, it is more about the purpose or selling a dream? Or is it more about, the harsh reality, you debunk the harsh reality of low pay and burnout, which I would say you already strategized with your progression and good pay. But then in your employer branding concept, how do you go as the content for it, actually, when people straight away relate to it? This is how I look at it from a THKMC perspective. How do you see that?
So where employer branding is concerned, we wouldn't take the approach of sugarcoating, nor is it a sob story. It is really about telling the truth with pride. It is hard work that builds purpose, people, as well as policies. Now, employer branding should focus on authentic storytelling, not glossy brochures. The goal isn't to hide challenges, but more importantly, we want to show to our people or those who are keen to join us that you will have a big role, an important role to play in solving these challenges together.
Excellent.
Can you give an example of one of those authentic stories that is being front and center for your prospective candidates to look at?
Now, one of the very successful programs that we are happy to share is the Brotherhood program that THKMC introduced in 2019. It is a program whereby a group of people come together to provide peer support so that we can help them break out of the cycle of family violence. Now, this is where they meet regularly and hear each other out, provide moral support, to provide comfort to each other without any judgment. And to date, we have helped more than 80 families break out of that family violence cycle.
And with that, I think I also want to understand, again, very much on the recruitment aspect of things. You probably have interviewed many different candidates so far during your time with THKMC. What would you rank as the most uncomfortable question that any of the candidates have ever asked you during a job interview? And what was your response to that?
That is a really good question. And one of the toughest questions that the candidates have asked authentically was this, or rather candidly was this, that was it worth it? I paused for a while, thought to myself, and I would say that it is worth it, provided that what matters to you is the meaning behind the work more than your next paycheck. Now, it is hard work, it is tough work, but it is absolutely fulfilling.
I've actually heard of this saying before. The most selfish thing one person can do for him or herself is to help others. Yeah, because the feel-good factor, the dopamine effect really kick in. And I personally have done some volunteer work before. The kind of satisfaction that you can get is really something that money cannot buy.
Yeah. And it's such a easy thing, but then most of the people don't recognize, because I think the mankind is in the race of survival of the fittest, which is how we evolved. But then honestly, actually in the current world that we live in, if we think outwards and think of supporting others, honestly, that is the best service we are doing to ourselves, actually, and it works really. Yeah. And today is the best topic, basically, to discuss that, since we are discussing the same topic with Jin. Okay, Jin. So we've talked about social sector. We've talked about the 3Ps. We've talked about the misconceptions about social sector, that you can't make a career, and you've actually debunked those myths. I think that is pretty valuable for Adrian, and for our audience. But then let's ask you that question. If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about how people perceive social service careers, what would it be?
If I can change one of the biggest misconceptions out there, it would be this. Social service professionals are not just a nice bunch of people coming together to do good. We are nation builders, creating an inclusive society for us all.
Yeah, and I think that is the fundamental layer to the success of any countries. We need more and more nation builders. And for any viewers or listeners who are on this podcast, I hope that would pique your interest to learn more about the social sector, ideally THKMC. As I understand, before this whole conversation started, we were talking about, right now it's so hard for people to get a job. And Jin-Hwui immediate response was, serious? We have plenty of jobs at THKMC. What are you talking about?
No, and that's the beauty of it, actually, right? That there are always sectors which are hiring, and I mean the job seekers actually make an impression by the news, actually, that's happening. Of course, it is hard in tough times to get a job, but then there are ample of good sectors out there. And what I understand after talking to Jin today is that social sector offers a blend of both. To any aspiring professional, actually, right? A real meaning of purpose. And of course, it doesn't give less pay. It doesn't give you less of any progression, actually, right, in your careers.
It's not the old school way of thinking or impression of how you may think social service is 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Things has changed rapidly. And the kind of modernization within the social service sector is also very much admirable. And Jin-Hwui, before we let you go, we are going to go into our next segment, which is on a rapid fire segment. Just answer the first thing that popped into your head.
Sure.
No need to overthink. Okay, once you're ready, I'll start first. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's your go-to way to unwind after work?
Netflix.
Is there any HR myth that you wish would disappear forever?
HR is not soccer. In soccer, everyone is a soccer coach, but not necessarily everyone is a HR expert. So let the HR experts work together hand in hand with the business experts to bring the best out of the organization.
Wow. If HR had a superpower, what should it be?
To create 72 hours per day.
Oh, that's
so
a good
within
one.
one day you hit your OT maximum.
Yep, that's why it's 72.
Now, what's the best career advice you personally ever received?
Do things that are in alignment with your value systems.
If you could automate one part of your job tomorrow, what would it be?
Any heavy lifting stuff that does not require human interaction. That we outsource to AI.
You should talk to me then, Jin. Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, last question. If you are not in HR right now, what do you think you'll be doing?
Before I joined the HR profession, I originally wanted to be a SAF officer or police officer.
Oh,
That was
That's
my ambition then.
interesting.
that's interesting.
It's
Now-
also about people. Yeah.
yeah, true.
And it's also about social.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
definitely nation building and
Yes,
nation
absolutely.
defending as well.
Yeah. So those are the values of Jin you see we learn actually today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jin-Hwui, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. Appreciate your
Thank you so
candid
much, Adrian and
sharing
Manu.
to school us more about the social service sector. A lot of things that we probably may not be familiar with, or we have an old school impression of how things are. I'm glad that this session, this premise allow us to bring everyone up to speed about what's going on, about the kind of retention, recruitment strategies, the succession planning, things are in place. Things that you may feel is quite table stake for
Yeah.
private companies,
Yeah.
which has always evaded social service, but right now it's table stakes for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think the messaging that you discussed with us, Jin, I think it really changes the perception of a lot of people, and I hope a lot of audience actually will understand that, and a lot of people will get inspired to join the social sector, and of course do a lot of nation building.
And that's a wrap. For those of you who are watching or listening to this, please follow, like, subscribe to Rolling Stories wherever you get your podcasts. And keep a lookout for our next episode where we're going to speak with more HR leaders to distill more wisdom and experience for you. Until then, keep rolling.
Keep rolling.